this wave took over me and was just like, you're going to be fine either way.
Even if you don't know what your purpose is, you will find out through the AOM system, through manifesting.
It teaches you just how to be so much more patient and happy in the present and grateful always.
Hi, welcome to the AOM Art of Manifestation channel. I am Sterling Mire, manifestation coach, and I've got a special, very special episode for you today with my client Claire Riffle, and she's going to talk about what her manifestation journey was all about, past, present, and we are just going to dive right in. So thank you so much for being here today, Claire.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. To start, I will say my relationship with manifesting is completely different than it used to be. I grew up and my dad used to have me from a very young age. He would always say, just focus on two things, find your purpose in life and work hard in school. And I knew from a very young age, I wanted to be an actor, comedian, entertainer, and he would have me write down 3 goals and put them on my bathroom mirror and say them out loud every day. And I thought maybe he just told me he did it and it worked, and I trust anything my dad says. So I was like, okay, like I don't really know what this is, but sure, I'll do this. And I was doing that up until I moved to LA around age 17. And I remember when I first moved here, this is my first lesson. I wrote down, this year I'm going to be in 2 commercials and a film. That was where I learned that you have to be specific because I was in 2 commercials and a film, but they were background roles, which is still great, when you're starting out. But it's not what I envisioned. I envisioned being a lead in like a feature film and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, you got to be more specific. And then I had an acting mentor, just a mentor in general, and he does readings and stuff. He's very in tune with the universe and everything. And he said to me, he's like, we were talking about an audition, and he said, don't ever look at at a no as a rejection. He said, rejection is the universe's protection. And that's where I really started thinking, like, that switched my whole mindset of everything really does happen for a reason. And I was like, okay. So I don't know why that just really stuck with me. And that's kind of how I started to approach everything in life. Whenever something didn't go the way that I had planned or whatever it was, I would just look at it as, well, what if I would have gotten it and it would have been terrible and it would have ruined my career or ruined me or whatever it is. So that really helped me start living in that positive, optimistic bubble. And then I kind of started diving in more because I've always been very intuitive. I have been told by many people growing up that I'm just very in tune and very intuitive. And I've always believed in like a, universe, God, whatever it may be. And things would happen that I had visualized, which I didn't realize I was manifesting at the time. But, if I, let's say, was thinking about, oh, I remember one time I was watching The Office and I was like, I love Steve Carell. Like, I'd love to work with him. And then like a week later, I was in the same Walgreens as him. So that's where I was kind of like, am I being heard? Is someone hearing me up there? And so I started looking more into manifestation and what more I could do because I used to be someone that was very much, I have to be in control. I have to do everything with a little OCD sprinkled in there. And I learned about like the 3-6-9 method where I remember I would write down every day, twice a day, I am a cast member on SNL. And then you'd write that 3 times, and then you'd have a second paragraph that you would write 6 times, and it was like how you felt. And then the last one would be 9 times of a sentence about your experience with the people you work with. There's something like that. And it was one of those ones that I no longer really believe in because it seems too controlled. And the biggest thing I've learned since doing AOM is that it's a lot less work than you think it is. So yeah, I was just doing that. And around almost a year ago, I started seeing a lot of angel numbers like crazy. And I started looking into it because I just kind of knew. I was like, I felt like I had a spiritual awakening. And I know some people say that and they're like, okay, but I really just felt like I'm so connected. Like I felt the synchronicity, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't have a name for it. I just felt like I would think something and then it would happen. I would see I started seeing actors all around LA who were all on the same show, but I didn't know any of them, but they were all, and I was like, why am I seeing all like the whole cast of this of All American? I was like, that's just weird. So I was like, but I would never look at it as like weird. I was like, that is interesting. Looking back now, I could tell, it's the universe kind of being like, this is where you're raising your frequency. Like these are the people you're going to be around. And I was like, oh. And then a friend of mine told me about AOM. And I remember, I think they mentioned it in like fall or something. And I was like, okay, like I'm going to read the book and everything. And I was in the process of moving. Um, and I was just like, I want to give this my full concentration. So I think our first meeting was the week I moved into this apartment. And but at that point, I would say around the time of the angel numbers and stuff, I really started to listen and notice signs, which you've told me, Sterling, about signs or angel numbers, whatever, are what you make them. And I would always look at them as like a positive. I was like, this is a guiding thing for me. Cause I've just always, I can't explain it. I've always just had this like trust of what I've been told in my brain. And then we had our first meeting, and that's where everything changed in the best way. I don't
I'm
know
going
if
to
you want
stop
me
you 1 second because I do have a question for you.
to.
Yeah, no, a lot of people have asked me about the 369 method. And my question to you is that did you get anything out of that methodology?
No, because all it did was fuel my OCD. And I thought, I was looking back, I was doing it out of fear. And I was like, if I don't, I have to do it because then otherwise it won't happen. Well, guess what? It didn't happen. And thank God, because I was not ready to, it wouldn't, that wasn't my path. Like, that's not what I'm supposed to do. But yeah, no, it didn't give me anything.
Right. Sounds like it, except driven you a little crazy.
Yeah, it drove me a little nuts, but yeah, no.
Well,
Mm-mm.
this is great. So I am so interested. We've never talked about your background with manifesting. And so that was very interesting to me. I get a lot of people asking me about what do you think about the 369 or the 555 method and all this stuff. And even though I haven't tried it myself, I did my own research on it and I looked to see the way it was designed, and I realized that there was a lot missing, that it was actually chaotic.
Yeah,
Actually, it's simplistic but chaotic and exhausting,
yep.
because I looked at it and I said, if you're going to do this all the time, not only are you going to miss the fundamental critical aspects of manifesting, but you're also going to exhaust yourself and kind of drive yourself batty with all the repetition, because I mean, that's not all there is to it. As you know, now that you've been doing the AOM system and you've been applying it to all areas of your life, I mean, you have career and finances, there's jobs, health, home, relationships, travel, adventures, all these different areas of our lives that make up our lives. And what's interesting too is when you look back at a method like that, try to get you to focus on like one area of your life. And the reason why I work with you and everybody else with all areas of your life is because everything works together as a tapestry and
Mhm.
everything is interwoven and everything overspills. So we need to address everything, not just one thing. And it's like having a lush garden of all these different vegetables. You don't just focus on growing tomatoes. You want everything to grow. So you have a balanced, diet. So you're healthy,
Yeah.
across the board, right? So to speak. So this is all very interesting for me to hear. And also, I hope with the viewers as well. But when you're talking about, you started mentioning, you were just talking about your application or your beginnings with AOM, and I'm just going to let you pick it back up from there.
So I remember when we first started, one of the first things we talked about was inauthenticity. And even after reading the book, I needed to have that conversation because I still was just like, okay, but it's it's amazing to me how AOM hasn't just affected, it's not just about the manifesting, it's about how you are presently and how you deal with everything, because that will affect what you're manifesting. And, I didn't realize so much of what like the world says creates who you are inauthentically. And, I guess I'll try to simplify what I'm saying. I'm somebody who, if someone would have looked at me a weird way in a store, like with like a mean glare or something, I would have immediately been like, what did I do? I did something to make them upset. Like I did something, and create these stories in my head that, you know, aren't true at all. And it's one, such a waste of time, but it's like, no, I'm inauthentically creating them to be mad at me when this person probably just like read a nutrition label and was like, what? That doesn't make any sense and has nothing to do with me. And it also has taught me how to approach situations and let things go so much easier, because I'm a very sensitive person. So I would take everything personal, when it comes to friends, family, strangers. I would worry about what people thought about me so much, and create all these. I've done that my whole life though. Like I remember growing up, with my group of girlfriends, I would constantly be like, are you mad? Are you mad at me? Did I do something? To the point that one day one of my friends was like, Claire, I'm not mad at you, but I'm gonna get mad at you if you keep asking me if I'm mad at you. And I was like, I didn't know why. I was just so sure that I was messing up. I was doing something. And it's because looking back, my whole life really wasn't putting myself first. I was giving a lot of my energy to make other people happy. And I felt I can't put myself first. Like that's being conceited and being full of myself. No, it's actually the opposite. It's one of the most selfless things you can do, because when you're a whole person, you're then able to be your authentic self. And that's another huge thing, is that whenever, you know, I am out somewhere, I remember I was telling you when I was first learning about authenticities and stuff, I was speaking about a show that I run. And I remember I was speaking to a friend about it, and I was like, yeah, like ugh, I'm just ready for it to be over. When I got in my car and I was like, why did I just say that like that? Like I love running this show. Like why did I say that? And it was because I thought, oh, well, we don't get a huge turnout sometimes, so that's embarrassing and I did something wrong. And it's like, no, actually we have a lot of regulars that come and it's so much fun, and I should be proud of that. And I started realizing when I wasn't being authentic, and it's so crazy because that took me a while to understand what that really meant, because we're so conditioned to be inauthentic a lot of the times. Um, and it's made me just worry a lot less. Like I don't assume people are angry with me. I don't assume that I just, piss somebody off. Like just being able to be authentic, you feel like you can't do anything wrong. If that makes any sense at all. It's like I would authentic me ever yell at someone? No. Would my 2-year-old self pick apart myself or someone in front of me? No. Because
What I'm
you
kind of hearing you say is that because you're authentic, so you're being authentic and not some inauthentic imposter that got created by your own imaginings and society and things like that, has dramatically impacted your experience of life and
right.
also your ability to manifest, because you're whole and complete with yourself. So you're ready to receive your manifestations. Where
Yeah.
you're being inauthentic, you're pushing them away, saying, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, this and that, right? And so yeah, that's what you end up creating, is then nothing. So how has this impacted your experiences in life, being authentic, finding your true self, your true confidence, and being, relaxed in your own like skin, on top of just glowing on top of that, because you always are.
No, well, I credit you. It's, I think I'm somebody who's grown up being extremely paranoid, really a people pleaser. And but it's not even just to do with people. Whenever I go to do something, and I'll get into that about coming out of fear or love, I now, whenever I'm approaching something that I want to do, I always think, am I doing this out of fear? Because then I know I'm being inauthentic. If I'm doing it out of love, I'm able to let it go. Like, if I can give an example in my created 12 months. Is it okay if I get into that, or do we want to wait?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. In my created 12 months, when I first wrote this, I mean, it's 8 pages of just like constant writing, and I have it memorized now. I created in career that I was a part of a comedy team. And I remember when I would be rehearsing, getting ready for this big audition for this thing, I was like, I don't know that I love this. I don't know that I'm having fun. And I do comedy because it's fun and I love it. And this specific form of what we were doing, I was just like, the fun's not really there, but I have to make this because that means that I am just going to be at the top and blah, blah, blah. And I remember at my audition, it didn't go well. I afterwards looked at my created day and it said, I got paired with this person in my team and we have so much fun. And I looked back and I was like, I wrote that because I was fearful that if they weren't on my team, I'd do bad. Well, they didn't get on my team and then it affected me. And I was like, oh my God, it's not going my way. Like what? And then I remember after my audition, there was about 3 days in between finding out if you got a call back or not. And it was so interesting because right after my audition, I was like, something I'd been so married to getting for so long, this wave took over me and was just like, you're going to be fine either way. You are going to be happy either way. Because I said to the universe, I was like, I only want to be on this team if I am meant to be, and if it's with the best possible people I could be working with, and if I am going to do great. If that's not the case, don't put me on a team. And then I didn't end up getting it. And it really sounds like I'm saying this because I didn't get it, but this happened before I even heard about the callbacks. I was like, I don't think I want this. I was like, I think I want this other thing. I think I want this other comedy thing that I'm doing. And I don't know that I even want this. And then now I look at it and I am so grateful it happened that way because one, it taught me to never create something out of fear because I didn't realize I was doing it at the time. And I went back and I scratched it out of my list and I looked at everything else. I was like, is any of this out of fear? That if it doesn't happen, everything's going to go, whatever. None of it is. It was that specific thing. And now it's so cool because I have created that I am a part of this other team, but I'm unattached to the outcome, which is huge for me because I was very attached to that last thing. But I learned don't do that. Don't be attached to the outcome because now I can look at it and I know that no matter what happens, if I get it or if I don't, it's for my better good. And it's supposed to happen that way. So it's just learning. It's so much more relaxed living not out of fear and living out of love and like looking at things and just being, it's cool because when you're creating your day, you just throw something in there like, I find $100 on the ground. And then you do, and you're like, see, I wasn't attached to whether it happened or not. And it happened.
So
So,
being unattached is one of the things that you got
oh yeah.
about manifesting.
Yep.
That brings the manifestations in, which sounds ironic because I know people think, well, if I'm not attached, then I don't care and I don't have a desire for something. But those are completely different things,
Yeah.
right? Those distinctions. And a lot of times people feel like they have to obsess on something and then that doesn't work. So then they give up, they get resigned in life and they completely give up and completely let go and it doesn't happen. And they're
Mhm.
like, throw their hands up in the air, is going, nothing I do works. I can't do this, I can't push hard and work hard for this, but yet also I can't let it go because then it's never going to happen. But what you find is the ability to have the two coexist where you're letting go at the same time you have the intention and the desire, they're coexisting
Mhm.
and learning about those paradoxes in
Yeah.
life where you have two opposites coexisting in life is where it's at. This is where we were meant to live
Yeah.
because nothing is significant and insignificant at the same time. I mean, it is at the same time, it's not one or the other. So you
Right.
have all these polarities in life. And where all the truth and the answers and the manifestation bliss comes from is understanding those two things coexisting in harmony, being in existence and in harmony.
Right.
And it sounds like such a contradiction, and it doesn't even sound like you can do both at the same time, but you absolutely can because you have done
Yeah.
just that. This is really, really great. So, anything else? Do you have any specific stories to share with us?
Yes, I have one that I wanted to talk about with money. I will be completely transparent, and Sterling knows this. I was extremely attached to money and was so scared of like, I would worry about spending money. And, I kept hearing like money is energy. And I was like, I hear that, but I don't get it. I don't understand like what that means. And you and I had many conversations about it. And finally it clicked that like money, and I know this to a lot of people, it might not make sense at first, and it didn't for me. But it will always come back to you. And I started realizing I wasn't actually scared of money. I was scared of like disappointing someone if I spent too much money, or, acting as if I can just throw money around when it's like it's such a hard thing to grasp, because one, I wanted to live as I live as this super successful actress that I'm manifesting and that I'm doing. So I was like, I'm getting in that frequency, blah, blah, blah. But then there was that other part of me that was like, you shouldn't spend money. Like, you need to be careful. You need to be living in scarcity. So I went to Vegas a couple weeks ago, and I remember you told me, create in your day that money comes back to me, and like the universe will always take care of you. And I felt like a fraud because I was like, I trust the universe. So why do I feel like it's not going to come back to me? I trust it? And I was like, I do. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to Vegas, the land of money. I was like, let's just see what happens. So I was at the slots. And I was with my dad, and I had like $20. And he said to me, I had $100 bill that I'd won the day before. He said, put your 100 in the machine. I go, no, I'm just going to use my 20 because I didn't want to, I was scared to lose it. And he goes, well, here, just take this 100 that I found on the ground. And I didn't tell him, but I had lost the 100. Oh, I forgot that part. Hello, Claire. The day before, that 100 that I had won, I actually lost it. And I didn't want to say it to my dad because he'd be like, how'd you lose 100? So I didn't mention it. I was like, I'll just use my 20. He's like, well, here, use this $100 bill that I found. And I was like, how interesting that I lost $100 bill and then my dad finds one walking to the casino. Like, is it rare to find money in Vegas on the ground? Probably not. But the fact that it happened specifically to me that same day, I was like, that is crazy. And then it hit me, and I was like, money always comes back to me. And that was a physical, version of it happening. And I finally, because I think for me, a lot of times money can be very like, it's a card that you put in, but it's like this money, number system in the ether, and you can't see it physically. And sometimes I need that physical representation of, because manifesting is so, as great as it is, sometimes I used to fall into the trap of like, it's blind faith, and you're living through blind faith. And for me, that was so hard. And now I live it, and I'm like, oh, absolutely, it's going to happen. But this was just another example of the universe being like, can you listen to us for 2 seconds? Here, we're going to show you right now. Here's your physical proof, Claire, since you need it. And then I ended up winning like, I doubled it over, and I got like almost $300 or whatever. But it was exactly what I had created in my day. I was like, money is going to come back to me. I'm not going to worry about money. And then it did. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be quiet now. I get it. I understand.
Yeah, you got proof. You got
Yeah.
absolute proof, physical proof. That's awesome. I love that. And what else have you gotten from creating with the AOM system in other areas of your life, and, relationships and, all the
Um,
other ones that we talked about? Go for it.
yeah, definitely being present. That's a huge one. I was definitely someone who lived in the future a lot and didn't even realize I was doing it. And then literally when I started AOM and you said that to me, I started being present and was just like, you need to enjoy what's happening right now. And it took me a while to get there. And then I got there and I was like, life is so much better when you're living in the present, because it's like you never know. That's the big thing. You never know how or when your manifestations are going to come true. And then when they do, I'll say the example I told you earlier. Like, I was comparing it to when you're young and you're going over to a friend's house for the first time. I used to always envision in my head, like, I bet their house looks like this. And then you would get there and it doesn't look like that. So it's the same, it looks totally different. So it's the same with manifesting. Like, you know, you're going to get this thing that you're manifesting, but you have no idea how it's going to happen. And that's the best part. Like, I wrote in my created 12 months, you know, these teachers speak very highly of my craft to other students. Well, then a friend of mine told me that the teacher mentioned me in the class and said exactly what I had like created. And I was just like, this actually happens. Cause I mean, most of my manifestations have come to fruition in no ways that I expected, which is the best possible outcome. Because that's why when I'm doing the dive meditation, I visualize myself, you know, on set with these people who I admire so much, these actors who are, you know, very like Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, all these people. And the second I start thinking, how did I get there? I stop and I go, don't think about how you're going to get there, and just feel how it feels being there, because the universe is going to take care of how you get there. And that's been a huge thing for me. I mean, there's so much. I'm like,
Living as if it's so, which
yes,
is something that Wayne Dyer talks about. So many people who speak on the subject of manifesting talk about living as if it's so. But most people have heard that, and maybe even yourself thought, how am I supposed to do that? I can't live like it's so because it's not so.
right.
You found your way to doing
Yeah.
that. You understand what that means and how to get there, more importantly.
Yeah. And I will say with manifesting, I've learned the reason we manifest certain things is because we know that they can and will happen. Like, I can think about, uh, you know, I think it'd be great to be able to bake really well, but I'm not gonna, I can't imagine myself doing that as a career or anything. I'm gonna leave that to the experts, but it's because I'm not called to that. So the reason you manifest things is because you know they can happen. You wouldn't just
Finding
create.
your purpose.
Yes, which is exactly
Finding
what my
your
dad
purpose.
said. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, the proof is, you know, with you, with all your clients, with my dad, who didn't even realize he was manifesting, but he said he was going to be in this position at this office and blah, 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 make these numbers. And he did it. And I think that's why I'm so grateful that I had him sort of holding my hand growing up, and then meeting you in the middle with AOM was just like the perfect combination. And anyone who doesn't believe in manifesting or in authenticity and whatever, I respect, but I don't know how you could, because life is so much better when you're not living in fear. It's so much better.
Yeah, and it impacts all areas of your life. I mean, how's your health, for instance? Is that what you want it to be?
Yes, that was one of my 12 created 12 months. I had I thought I took care of myself because I used to be a trainer, physical trainer, and I thought like, oh, like I'm healthy or whatever. Then I said one day to my friends, I kid you not, it was probably a Thursday. I said to my friends, I go, I don't know why. I really want to get more in tune with my body. I feel like I need to get more in tune with that. Well, guess who was in the emergency room Saturday night with gallstones? Me. And it's not the way I expected it to be, but that was the universe being like, "Oh, you think you're gonna have a little sound bath and connect with your body?" We love sound baths, but they were like, "No, you really need to realize, unless your health is in, you know, tip-top shape, nothing else is going to come to you, because why would these amazing things come to you when you're physically not ready for them?" And that's when I really started prioritizing my health. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to focus on anything else. I'm just going to focus on my health. And sure enough, I start doing that. I get asked to do, you know, perform with a bunch of people that I love. And I start meeting all these wonderful people I admire in the industry. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I understand now. And that's something I've wanted that forever. I've always wanted to feel super connected with my body, but I always neglected it without realizing it. But if your body and your mind and your health are not in the right place, how can you expect the universe to be like, okay, you're okay, we're going to give this to you on top of you already kind of struggling with your health? Why would they do that? They want the best for you. So that was, yeah, I'm really grateful. And almost all of my health ones, I think actually all of them have come true.
Yeah,
So,
excellent. Well, it makes me think what hearing you talk, and I've noticed this with all my AOM clients. but I have never really addressed it in any interviews, but people become more psychic. Wouldn't
Yeah.
you, right?
Yes.
More intuitive, more psychic.
Yes. It's, I can give a very quick example. I was going to see a show the other day, a comedy show, and it was a team that I love, and they're there every week. And I had this thought, I go, this person's not going to be there tonight. And she's there every week. She's part of the show every week. I said she's not going to, I just had a gut feeling. Sure enough, I walk in the doors, they come out on stage, she's not there. And I was like, and I hadn't, it wasn't like I saw some posts on social media that she was out of town or something. And I mean, I have so many psychic moments of just, I know when I'm going to see someone. I know when something's going to happen. It's like you just feel so in tune. You know when you feel in tune. And if you don't, energy healing and all that stuff is very important because we neglect that. We don't think about how important it is to take care of like your frequency and your energy. We just think of the physical body.
Yeah, and you're connecting through AOM to the truth, removing the blocks so that you can manifest. And what a lot of people don't realize is they become more psychic, but it makes sense because now you're steeped in truth. You're not steeped in fear. You're not steeped in the imagination that's gone wild and crazy and out of control, but
Yeah.
you're connected to the truth. And that truth, of course, comes through psychic impressions and intuition and things like that, because that is steeped in truth. And so you know you're in sync. You have this extra benefit that you never even realized you were going to get from doing this work, which is
Yeah.
really cool. It's another discovery to get. Who doesn't want to be psychic and
Right.
intuitive and led in the direction that you are intended to go to through your, to your manifestations? What's one of the things that surprised you about doing the AOM system?
Um, I mean, I think I said it earlier, but just it's a lot less work. It's way less work, and that the universe is really on your side. Like people think life is so hard, and not to discredit anybody's struggles, but it's like if you literally, and this was huge for me because as I said, I'm somebody who used to be have to be very in control of my personal, being and everything. The second you just give in and just give everything up and you're like, I'm going to just test this out, it'll happen. And it's letting go, having your intentions, but also remaining authentic. And also, you also don't know how it's going to affect the people around you because we talk a lot about like the speaking with the universe and spirit guides and frequency and everything, but the physical, like I can give an example right now. Um my friend, a friend of mine mentioned to me, he was like, "We're have you ever seen Harold and Maude?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "I'm gonna call us that, not because of the relationship, but just because we're both like that's like our name for each other. It's like a joke." And then I think that same day, and he was talking about it for like a week. He was like, "Oh yeah, we're Harold. That's gonna be our comedy show name or whatever." And then you said to me, "You go, have you ever watched Harold and Maude? I think you'd really like it." I didn't mention that to you, and I sent him I go, "Oh my gosh." And then sure enough, right after I watched it for the first time, like the next week, this movie has never been brought up in front of me my whole life, that I'm aware of. The next week I'm at a improv show and this someone references Harold and Maude, and I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, the fact that you just said that. And someone was like, I haven't seen that yet. And she goes, oh, it's the best like reference point for everything. And I was like, I know, because I just watched that. And it's like, it's just so cool. Like the free, like when those moments happen, I'm like, how can you not believe in this? Like there's no such thing as coincidence. Like everything happens for a reason. I really think living by that is just, it makes your life so much better. And when you don't get the promotion or, when this person doesn't take you on another date, instead of thinking, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? You go, oh, thank goodness. Because had I gotten it, maybe I would have gotten fired the first weekend. Maybe that person would have ended up being crazy or whatever it is. And so it's the second you think like that, life is way better.
Right? Yeah, I agree with you 100% as a participant as well. I wanted to ask you as well, what are the things that you that you like the most about the AOM system? What are some of your favorite things about the system itself?
Ooh, everything. I love the dive meditation. That is my probably one of my favorite things. Because I feel so connected to who I am, if that makes sense. Like when I'm imagining myself, I'll just use the career one because that's the easiest one to give an example of. But when I'm imagining myself on set with these people, these people I admire so much, being directed by Paul Feig, these amazing directors, I don't sit there and go, oh, I hope when I'm in it, I'm like, yeah, of course. Of course, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, this is, of course, I'm here. And it's not coming from a place of like, oh, I'm holier than thou, but it's one of those things where it's like, I am putting myself first, which is good and you should. And I just think it's one, a great way to meditate because I used to try to meditate and could never do it because I would just get antsy and be like, I can't sit here for 30 minutes. With a dive, I'm like, can we do it again? Like I love it. And it's just, it really also helps you let go of a lot of things. You helped me get, you told me when I had my gallstones, you were like, you can think about that in your dive meditation and it'll fix things. And I know that sounds crazy, but like we've been good. And it's really cool. The dive meditation, I think meditation on the go as well, just observing and not creating stories about people because it's almost kind of gross how much we're conditioned to like make judgments and stuff without even realizing it. You can be the best person ever, but like that doesn't mean you've never judged someone. And now, because you're not attached to, oh, they drive that car. They're probably super, ritzy and whatever. It's like, no, that's a silver, Mercedes. That's it. That's all it is. And it also helps me with traffic because I am a former road rage person, not violent, but I would get very worked up for no reason. And now when I'm sitting there and I'm finding myself like gripping my seat, like, oh my gosh, I want to honk the horn so bad. I'm just like, stop, observe, take a second. And it always will calm me back down. But I think it's also just taught me how to speak in general. Uh, when my friends say things, oh, I can't afford to do that. I go, don't say that. I'm like, don't say that because you're creating that. And it probably annoys them, but I'm like, don't speak like that because when you're putting that out there, the universe is always listening. And I mean, I know it sounds funny, but like I really think of the universe as like my friend. I'm like, oh, no, they hear everything and like what you're creating will happen. So be intentional, be specific.
This is so true. And
Yeah.
one of the aspects of the AOM system for manifesting on a daily basis is creating your ideal day. So
Hmm.
get out of doing that. How exciting, right? It's the beginning
Yeah.
of the day, you write your perfect day and then just let it unfold. So what do you have to say about that aspect?
Yeah, I love creating my day. And when I first started, I didn't really understand it, which I think is probably normal. It takes a little bit to adjust, but I would create things out of fear without realizing it. Like, I don't even know. I I get an audition and I get a call back and I do absolutely perfect and blah blah blah. And it's like, first of all, relax. And then it wouldn't happen. And I was like, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. And then I would speak to you about it and you'd be like, well, you're creating out of fear these things. So then that's when I kind of was just like, you know what? I'm just going to create a day that I'm not attached to what happens. It's very just like, we'll see what happens. What I want to happen, of course, like, have a great lunch with a friend or something. But once I started doing that, that really changed because things would happen in my day that I created. And I would start, when I'm inviting things, I thought it had to be uh like an adjective or a noun, like I'm inviting joy or whatever. And same with my intention. I was like, my intention is to be happy. And then I realized you can be actually very specific with your intention. Like my intention is to be fully memorized on this script. And then at the end of the day, when you're reviewing your day, you look at it and you're like, I did that without even realizing it. And it's so funny because when I first started, I would have to write my 3 ways of being down, 3 words of the day that I'm being, and I would pick words out of fear. You know, if let's say I had a job interview and I picked the words like outstanding, perfect, amazing resume, or whatever it is, and it wouldn't happen, I'd say, oh, what did I do wrong? But then I started realizing you can't pick your words based on that. You kind of have to see what picks you in a way. And once I started doing that, I would let it go. And I was like, I hope I'm doing this right. Cause I was like, I'm not like really like constantly checking. And then I would go to the end of my day and review it and be like, I was all those ways today without even realizing it. Again, letting go of control. Cause the second I start to think I have to be in control is when it all kind of goes downhill.
Control equals fear. Fear is control. It's all fear-based way of being. And one of the things that I've heard you say repeatedly here is how you have become fearless in life.
Yeah.
You're not operating from fear. But when you look around and you think about what people are saying, like your friends and things like that, when you look around, you notice that the world is operating from fear. And
Mm-hmm.
this is why the people's lives look so messy. That's why the world looks so messy. If we can transform the fear, then we're going to have heaven on earth. It's just a matter of disappearing that fear. And that is crucial. That is critical. That's
Yeah.
absolute. And you've done that with the AOM system. And it's really kind of the root of transforming everything, wouldn't you say?
Yes. And it's also you when something happens from another person, you're speaking about like your friends or family or whatever, I don't take things personally anymore. I don't sit there because I know that that person is being inauthentic. So I know it's not actually about me, you know? And things are always based on people's own insecurities. And it's like, I'm so sure of who I am. Nothing and no one is going to stop me from doing my passion. Like, good luck. I dare you to try because when you're whole, like, I remember I told you when we were talking about like relationships and stuff, for so long, I was like, I really want to be in a relationship. Like, I think it'd be, I really want this, whatever. And then I got to a place because I was becoming so whole with myself through this work that I was like, I'd love to be in a relationship, but I'm also so happy right now being present and just like, I'm happy as it is. When it happens, it happens. But there's no longer that attachment of like, well, I have to go to this bar because I have to meet somebody. It's like, I'll stay in. Like, I don't care. I know it's going to happen perfectly for me when it's supposed to.
Absolutely. And you're so right on with that. So you're not trying to control anything, you're allowing things to show up to you. And that's a whole different experience. And you've lived life before chasing after things. Whereas here you're having that experience where things kind of just fall into place, they show up for you. And that's part of the effortlessness of manifesting, which is what, I'm hearing you say. It's been such an incredible journey watching your transformation, listening to your transformation, co-experiencing, sorry, your transformation has just been so inspiring and so exhilarating and so reconfirming that this work does work, and
Yeah.
you and I have talked about celebrities who've manifested their life, and Dolly Parton, and recently Barbara Streisand. We're talking about that. Everybody knows about Jim Carrey and his absolute joy for manifesting, and Phyllis Diller, the comedian, the stand-up comedian Phyllis Diller from the 60s. All these people and everybody, and I read a lot of autobiographies, and everyone has this common denominator, and that is manifesting. Whether they find out about it one way or another, where they began with it might vary,
Yeah.
but the fact they all practice it is the common denominator. And I can't even understand why anybody, regardless of what your dreams are, your goals are, why you wouldn't want to become a master at manifesting, because what could
Yeah.
be more important? We're here as creators and we're here to fulfill a purpose. And even if you don't know what your purpose is, you will find out through the AOM system, through manifesting. Those answers will show up. Any questions never go unanswered. They come answered through this work, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and also anytime. something doesn't go the way that you planned, it is for your protection. I cannot emphasize that enough because every time, and we've spoken about this, every single time something hasn't gone the way that I wanted or expected it to go, I look back and I'm like, thank God, thank goodness I did not get that thing. Thank goodness, this person didn't talk, whatever it is. Because look, like now I got this opportunity, and it's always, you just have to really believe that like the universe is like supports you and is doing this. They want you to have, your best and all your dreams come true. They're working with you. It's not against you. It's not, you didn't get this because you didn't deserve it. It's, oh no, you didn't get this because had you gotten it, X, Y, and Z would have happened. That's how I live. And it really helps me stay very sane and happy.
I can share on that too, because there's been so many things that didn't materialize and I wondered why. And I always, always, always got clarity on that down the line.
Yep.
Some unlikely way, the truth of whatever that was revealed to me. And I was like, yes, of
Yeah.
course. I would, that is not what I wanted. I looked like it on the surface, but the reality of it is not what I was manifesting. And then everything that I wanted to manifest did show up, you know? So if I wanted to work with a person on a project and it didn't work, I'm like, what? But this is what I want. Da, da, da. And then I find out they were not the appropriate person on the project. And then the right one showed up and everything got fulfilled on. So there's a lot of trust and faith, but there's also a lot of understanding and experiential learning that you get from AOM. So it isn't like it's not really a blind faith or blind trust where you're just like, oh, you
Right.
do understand the whole process experientially from doing it, from being engaged in the system allows you to understand all of these truths, gain that kind of clarity and confidence, know what it is that you're doing. And it is amazing because when you're coming from that place of truth, haven't you ever noticed that there is something very different about when something resonates with truth than something that resonates from a place of fear? One
Yeah.
feels more real and true, and the other one just seems chaotic and confusing when you're coming
Yes.
from a place of fear. So, I mean, there's boy, yeah, we could talk a long time about all that there is to like get out of this work.
Yeah.
But to sum it up, is there anything that you want to say as we do sum up this the AOM system and wrap up this interview?
I mean, the only thing really is that it really has changed my life in the best possible way and just made me enjoy every moment of life so much more than just thinking, I'll be happy once I get this thing. I'll be happy when this happens. It's like, no, no, no. It'll come to you when you're happy in the present. And just, yeah, it's like I just live such a happier life knowing that when something happens that I may not understand why it's happening at all in that moment, I may be like, why did this happen? I will always I'm fine with that feeling even when I have to sit with it because I know that eventually it's going to be so clear to me why it did happen. I'm going to be so grateful because that's my track record. It's always been that way. And so why would why would you not want to live that way?
Yeah, absolutely. Why would you not want to live that way? And just as you were talking, I was thinking about all those areas of your life and how you've manifested your health, you've manifested your career, your relationships, finances, work, hobbies, and travel and adventures because you're going on to trips. And,
Yeah.
so you've manifested all of those things as
Yeah.
you intended before you were doing this work. Those things were not in existence.
No, I wouldn't travel anywhere. I thought I had to be here all the time. I was like, I can't leave LA. I told you, I was like, I cannot leave. What an opportunity is going to come to my door. Well, nothing came. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start traveling. And then you get auditions and you start booking things the second because you can't forget to live your life. I remember I told you I was during my in the mornings and evenings when I'm reciting my 12 months, I would be like, yeah, I'm really just focusing on this one. And you go, why are you doing that? Why would you put focus on just one? Like all aspects of your life are just as important. And I used to really neglect that. I would only focus on career. And you have to understand that, like you say, like everything works together. So once I got my health in check, that's when I started getting more opportunities where I wanted opportunities. And it's like, it's very, it teaches you just how to be so much more patient and happy in the present and grateful always.
Yeah, you can have it all. You can have it all. You can live joyously and fully while manifesting your life and have everything just fall into place. You don't have to worry about timing. Everything will fall into perfect place, and you've experienced that. So you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. I want to thank you so much for being on this interview and sharing your manifestation journey with me and everyone else. So, thank you so much, Claire. It is such an honor and a privilege to be your coach.
Oh,
It's
likewise.
it really is. I love it. I've loved every minute of it.
Me
And I
too.
thank you so very much. And thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of the AOM System Manifestation Mastery channel with the guest and AOM participant, Claire Riffle. And if you want to hear more about manifesting from another successful comedian, actor, Harlan Williams, there is an interview with him on this channel. So check out what he has to say about manifesting and how he manifested his career, his life, his happiness and health. And he is thriving. So thank you again, and I will see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.